dump? Because it.
Doesn't have to, but. Please welcome the collection of personal data groups.
Hi, my name is Jordan, and Sophia, Lydia, and I will be discussing the CONSTA large-scale data collection. The Constitution of the United States was written in 1787. Our founding fathers fought for our rights. Since then, a lot has changed in America. The Commissions Act was passed in 1934. Under Section 222, the Act states that telephone companies are prohibited from giving out any information regarding who the caller calls, how often, and what route the call takes to get to its final destination.
In 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that warrants are required for domestic intelligence surveillance. 5 years later, in 1978, the FISA was signed, which protected Americans from domestic spying. In an interview with political officials, we learned that the NSA had been keeping detailed records from America's top 3 communication devices since shortly after the 9/11 terrorist attack.
Edward Snowden, as a computer professional, stole information from the NSA and leaked it to mainstream media. He exposed the NSA for making too much security on the government. We will be discussing 3 main cons today. We will be discussing 3 main cons of the collection of personal data, which are the cost of collecting and storing personal data, the risks of hackers and data spills, and that is a violation of our civil rights.
Hi, I'm Nathan Craig.
I'm Sabina Jinchi.
I'm Trinity White.
We did the collection of personal data pros, and we attend Nelson County next week. So what is personal data? Personal data is described as data in relation to individuals, and this data can directly identify them, or it can identify in conjunction with other data. News reports, we found that news reports released in 2005 first revealed that the NSA had been collecting mass phone and text data on America's citizens.
However, we suspect that they have been able to do so since 2001 as a result of the 9/11 terrorist attack.
The collection of personal data violates the United States citizens' rights. After 9/11, Congress rushed and passed the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act gives the government more power on collecting data on its citizens. The Patriot Act is unconstitutional because it violates the 4th Amendment. The 4th Amendment states that the government cannot conduct a search without obtaining a warrant and showing reasonable suspicion to why that person committed a crime or will in the future. With the Patriot Act, the government no longer has to show reasonable suspicion and also doesn't have to let that person know that they are going through the records. The government is basically spying, and frankly, America's happy.
One benefit of the collection of personal data is protection against terrorism. Various organizations such as the Justice Department and Homeland Security, such as Defense and Education, all manage to uncover criminal actions and prosecute both criminal and terrorists. How they do this is by scanning cell phones, computers, and internet data usage. They also discover fraud, which Trinity will talk later in the presentation. As you can see in this picture, which is the tragic event of the attack on both the Twin Towers, commonly known as 9/11. This happened on September 11, 2001. Because of this, as a matter of fact, the 9/11 attack was the worst terrorist attack in American history. Because of this catastrophe, the Patriot Act was passed to allow the government to access Americans' citizens' personal data. And since the passing of the Patriot Act, there has been no major successful terrorist attacks on America.
From 2013 to 14, 90% of healthcare organizations lost or exposed their patients' data. In September, the FBI notified the USPS that they had suffered an intrusion. The man was able to steal information dating back to last January. He was able to steal names, numbers, email addresses, and addresses of people who contacted the Postal Service Customer Care Center. From January 2009 to May 2012, the top three reasons for exposed data were unintended disclosures, loss or theft of portable devices, or loss of physical records. In this time period, 268 incidents occurred and over 94,300,000 records have been exposed. Maintaining large amounts of data still remains a challenge today. In one case shows our own U.S. Coast Guard contractor stealing personal information from 250 different PCs that he should have been repairing. Sometimes the real problem is human error. In the past 3 years, 29% of mistakes reported by government agencies because of unintended mistakes.
Monitoring communications. So to monitor communications, which could be possibly dangerous to American citizens, the NSA uses something called pin trap data. PIN standing for pin registers, trap standing for trap and trace devices. These things can collect information about telecommunications, but not specific content. The Supreme Court case, Smith versus Maryland, ruled that law enforcement could use this data as criminal evidence, and the more recent Patriot Act ruled that they could use online communications, such as emails, as criminal evidence. As you can see by this poll conducted by Darren Carlson, who's a government politics editor, a collective 62% of people who took this poll agreed that the Patriot Act is about right or does not go far enough as far as the powers that it grants. I believe this is beneficial because now that the NSA and other law enforcement has legal authority to review these possibly dangerous communications, a lot more criminal actions can be stopped in the process.
This is $75 billion. This is also the amount the National Intelligence Agency received last year as their annual budget. $10 billion alone went to the National Security Agency. With all of the money spent, records show that they've only stopped 54 potential terrorists, and even fewer of these have been tried and taken to court. Their biggest terrorist case in America was one cab driver in California who sent $8,500 to a small terrorist organization. With all of the billions of dollars spent and all of the millions of Americans whose privacy was invaded, their biggest case had been one man donating a few $100s to a small terrorist organization. Targeted surveillance shows to be just as effective as mass surveillance and is much cheaper and less invasive. It does not make sense for the government to continue to fund a program that is so ineffective.
Our third road for the collection of personal data is fraud detection. There are many ways the government detects fraud for medical purposes. Two ways are Medicaid and Medicare. Medicare is the world's largest health insurance program, and Medicaid is the world's second largest. They both collect data and protect it from hackers and those who try and obtain your information without you knowing. The data collected by the NSA that is given to health insurance agencies is protected against those who try and get your information without.
Our founding fathers fought for our freedom and our right to privacy. We should not have to sacrifice our privacy for our security. The government should make laws restricting the amount of data allowed to be collected without a warrant.
There are many risks to collecting and maintaining mass amounts of data. The collection of personal data is without probable cause or warrant is a direct violation to the Fourth Amendment. As technology grows, data spills and hackers have become more prevalent in databases. The government shouldn't be able to continue to invade our personal privacy.
Honestly, the expenses of collecting and storing personal data is outrageous compared to the effectiveness of the program. And the government should not continue to fund a program with such futile results. These arguments show that the government must act fast to create reforms to protect our privacy before surveillance on innocent Americans is taken any further.
Protection against terrorism, monitoring communications, and fraud detection are all benefits of the collection of personal data by the government.
The scenario we were given was, in the wake of recent revelations, the government has collected a mass sum of data on American citizens, and they're considering new guidelines. We would suggest, through our research, that these guidelines be swaying more towards letting the government continue to collect this data. After all, it's a large part in protecting America from internal and external dangers, things such as that. Thank you. I'll now take any questions.
Questions for either side?
No questions. Nobody's worried about their data.
Okay.